Yeah, I have some old ones.
Mine don't fit anymore.
Yeah. I think mine are hand-me-downs from somebody and they're pretty large.
I flipped and I didn't realize how dirty I was.
Oh. That happened.
And we are alive.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just a reminder to silence your cell phones. We'll start with roll call.
Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilor Horton.
Here.
Councilor Quinlan.
Here.
Councilor Scalise.
Here.
Councilor Skiles.
Here.
Councilor Spradlin. Councilor Tyree.
Here.
All right, we've got a quorum. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes for the agenda?
I do have one change to remove the golf carts licensing from work sessions. We're not ready to bring anything further back to council at this time.
Okay. I would look for a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
Move we approve the agenda as presented with the change of the golf carts.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Horton.
Yes.
Councilor Scalise.
Yes.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councilor Skiles.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Approval of the minutes. We've all had a chance to read through the minutes of our last meeting. Did we have any corrections or anything? If not, I'd look for a motion on those.
I move to approve the meetings of the regular meeting of June 8th, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Skiles.
Yes.
Councilor Scalise.
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan.
Yes.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Councilor Horton.
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. That motion passes. Visitors and delegations. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please note that no formal action can be taken on an item that is not on the posted agenda due to the open meetings law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. To better assist you with questions, please submit them in writing to the city clerk and someone from staff will respond. Do we have anybody here for citizen comments? You guys are probably here for the hearings. Okay, so we will move on to management and our public hearing. So I will start by opening the public hearing, and we have a staff report from Tyler Burris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, City Council. So tonight is a public hearing. Proceeding this will be the second reading for an ordinance for us updating our energy code. We're currently on the 2018 energy code, but state legislation has mandated that all jurisdictions go up to a new standard, which includes the minimum standard of the 2024 IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code. And so we've been working with a consultant over the last, we'll say 6 months or so, who's working with consultants in the Excel region, specifically on updating the local building codes. And so we opted to keep all the other codes the same, with the exception of making a couple modifications as they pertain to the energy code by itself, going to the 2024. It's very extensive. It includes the IECC as well as the Colorado Solar Ready and Electric Ready and Solar Ready code as well, which is part of that state legislation mandate. And the deadline to adopt it is June 30th, 2026, which is why we're having a special meeting tonight. And so everything is essentially there together. We'll be implementing things officially tomorrow. To a certain degree, the state did give us, as well as other jurisdictions, permission to have kind of a plan over the course of time, which is referenced in the ordinance as well. So within 9 months, we'll be requiring everything, but we're implementing it in phases over the next 3 months. Every I think it is every 3 months. It's now we're going to require this, now we're going to require this. So that'll give us a little bit more time to educate contractors, get people in that mindset as much as reasonably possible when the time comes. So that's the general overview of it. I won't dive into the weeds unless you would like to ask any specific questions or want me to dive into the weeds.
Could you just refresh me, this, you said this is state mandated, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's the only thing I wasn't 100% clear on.
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't touch it with a 39.5 foot pole.
So deliberations are pretty much it. Do we have anybody for public testimony on this? Probably not. So do we need to discuss anything? Deliberations? Nobody has any questions? All right, pretty straightforward. So I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Tyler.
You bet.
Roll call vote.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Horton?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Stiles?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, the public hearing is closed, so now we need to do the second reading on this ordinance. So I need a motion with the title read on this to approve this second reading. This on second reading. Anybody?
Motion that we approve the second reading of the ordinance number 922-26, an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 3, and Article 7 of the Brush Municipal Code regarding residential code and energy conservation code.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Stiles?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Horton?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, that motion passes. All right, our next item, C, historic designation of 222 Clayton Street. Tyler, you're back.
I'm back. So the Historic Preservation Board, one of the functions they do, historic preservation, but is specifically designating local buildings for historic preservation. They don't have the authority to actually designate it, but they can vote to approve a recommendation that then comes to council to designate a property historic. So there's a local historic designation, there's a state, and then there's a national. So the local one is just done by the local authority. It's more of a feel-good sort of aspect, as well as opens opportunity for the property owner to access tax credits if they want to make any type of historic preservation investment into their home or building or commercial building. As far as restrictions and that kind of thing, there's nothing in place for that unless you get to a state or national registry. Each one of them comes with more restrictions that are tied to the actual preservation of that. So if a building owner was designated locally and then they went and changed it and it takes away from the historic look or element of it, then they essentially just lose their local status of things, but that was pretty much the extent of it. And so we had a building that did put their application in a few months ago, 222 Clayton Street, which is the Carrillo's restaurant there. In your packets is part of a historical survey that was done in 2004. I don't know the number of properties, maybe 40 or so properties, maybe more, of the history that the folks who did the work could find on each building. So a lot of fascinating information about the buildings that we were able to uncover some history on back then. It's still relevant because history doesn't change. And so David Lawrence, who has since passed away, the board chair, passed away recently, he did the legwork and reached out to the building owners and talked to them, and they wanted to designate their property as historic. So at the last, actually a couple of meetings ago, the Historic Preservation Board did approve a vote to recommend approval, which is now before council this evening. And in case you're curious, in the packet, the history on there, just a couple neat highlights on that building. It was originally constructed in 1928. It served a few different purposes, the big one being an auto dealership there, which is still blows my mind in today's day and age of such small buildings could be an auto dealership with what I've grown up with since 1982. It was a jewelry store for many, many decades, a couple different ones as well. And then at one point it was divided into two spaces, which we currently have now, Carrillo's and the next door where that church is currently located. And there used to be a bank as well, and there's still a safe in there, in case you ever want to go see it. So just some general highlights, but it's all in there. And the community, if they want to know more information, we'd be happy to provide them with that historical information. So my request is simply that council would approve the historic designation of 222 Clayton Street.
I would like to say that where the church is now is where my grandpa and my daddy's jewelry store used to be a long time ago, so that's pretty historic,
I would agree.
back in the day. So, I would look for a motion on this one.
I move we approve the historic designation of 222 Clayton Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Stiles?
Yes.
Counselor Horton?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Townsend?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. All right, that motion passes. Okay, the South Platte solar permit conditions. Dale?
Okay, I have a short lead-in before
Okay.
we get started. So this is a project we've been working on for quite a while. Dell and I have been communicating with NextEra, and we've been looking at a solar facility that they're installing south of the city of Rush, near our protected well field and aquifer. And so it does require this permit before they can move forward with their project. And Dale and I did just finish up with a tour last week, I think it was. Last week? Last week we went down to Pueblo and we toured one of their facilities just to the east side of Pueblo and got a better feel of what it would look like. It's going to be a little bit different from that one, but most of the different aspects of it are going to be pretty similar. A few meetings ago, the city council designated me as the official to sign off on the permit. And with that, I did at that meeting say before I signed off on a permit, I would come back and advise council of what the conditions are. And so I had Dell put together a list of the conditions that you have in front of you. It's a little bit of reading, but most of the items we're so close on getting done, we feel that before the next council meeting, even that I might be signing off on a permit for South Platte Solar NextEra. So just a few items that we need to wrap up. Dell will probably highlight those in his report, but Dell's goal is to kind of give a 30,000-foot review of this, and then if you have more details, just ask away. Dell.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. Well, as you know, I can be somewhat wordy at times, and so I'll try to keep this brief and just hit the highlights and stuff, and I do apologize in advance, as this is more of, there's narrative in here explaining the background of why we're approaching these particular terms and conditions of this permit, and keeping in mind, this is not a 1 or 2 acre or even a 5-acre solar project as we've seen in and around the community. This is a very significant size project with 3,164 acres of solar panel. And I have with us tonight Chris and Eric from NextEra Energy Resources. And when I finish, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, I'm pretty sure they'll be glad to address and visit about that. So because of the magnitude of this particular project, we've taken a very good hard look at it because it sits over the top of our aquifer. And this is our only water source at this point. So we have to be very careful. And with that, in order to monitor any effects that may occur within that aquifer, the first term and condition we're going to have is a groundwater monitoring plan. They've currently got a scope of work with a firm called Tetra Tech, and they're very competent, by the way, in order to develop a groundwater monitoring plan. I haven't seen it yet. I sent the scope of work down to our consultants, which is HRS Water Consultants, but they again they want to see the actual monitoring plan itself. That would be where the intent is we will have an upgradient monitoring well. So we'll know what the background is, that because of the way the water flows through the ground, it'd be upgradient. So we know, and for them, it's actually a bit of plausible deniability, because if something hits in that well and it hits in the downstream wells, plausible deniability says we didn't do it. So we're going to get an upgradient well, plus we're going to do some baseline monitoring of existing wells that is out there, as well as that upgrading well. And then we will also have some Sentry wells that will be drilled down gradient from the project. And we will be monitoring that once a year for the first 5 years during construction, once a year during construction, because I believe this is as they build these sections of solar panel fields, it's done in pieces and parts. It's a slow progress. And with that, one of the things that we will be looking at is monitoring, doing baseline monitoring during construction, or actually ongoing monitoring during construction, and then for 5 years after construction, we'll be doing annual monitoring as well. If at that point in time we don't see anything that really is concerning, the proposal is to drop it down to once every 2 years, which sounds reasonable. And with that, we will be monitoring for things like inorganics, the typical stuff that we monitor for anyway. So anyway, there will be the groundwater monitoring plan. Once I get that from the NextEra Energy Resources, then I'll forward that on to our consultants for comment and review. With that also, we'll be looking at the aquifer levels. So not only will we, because we don't really know how this is going to affect the aquifer. And I've not really found some good historical data on this, because this is a very unique situation. So not only will we be looking at the constituents that's in the groundwater, we'll also be looking at the levels, the quantities. And so from there, we will be needing, the next item that we will be looking for is some sort of financial security instrument. And we're talking either a bond or a letter of credit. With that, if you look at Appendix 1 or Attachment 1, you will see a matrix that was developed by JDS Hydro, our consulting engineer. This was done many years ago. And with that, John McGinn assigned a value of the water quantity as well as a value of the water quality. So quantity and quality. Then, at which point, we looked at all the different activities that could be out there, and then we looked to see what kind of impact those activities could have on the aquifer. And then we assigned a percentage of the value of water quantity or the value of water quality, or both, to that. And so with that, in looking at this particular project, we have assigned for the initial, during construction as well as the post 5 years, is 20% for quantitative, because we don't know how it's going to affect the quantity, and then 40% of qualitative. And with that, that brings up a total of $23.3 million. Now, keeping in mind, our engineer also stated that the greatest or the highest risk time window is going to be during construction. And so after construction is completed and 5 years afterwards, we're going to go back and look at our results from testing, and chances are we're proposing that we will reduce the amount of the financial security, because it really wouldn't be appropriate to hold on to that financial security if it's demonstrated that risk is not there. And so with Attachment 2, there's a little bit of a schedule on how we plan on looking at that. The next item for our terms and condition is weed control management. That's one of the biggest concerns that we've had, because we're actually doing a lot of, based on the county's, the permit application submitted to the county many years ago, it appeared that there was going to be a lot of cut and fill. And we know out here, once you disturb soil, then the weeds take over. Once the weeds take over, then you've got to do some sort of weed management. And there's two types, mechanical or chemical. And that's what concerns us, as well as our water consultants as well, is, 3,164 acres is pretty significant in magnitude as compared to, say, like a 2-acre solar field. And so one of the things that we wanted to do was to visit an existing site and get an actual insight of what's going on. And so on the 19th, we did go down and visit their project just east of Pueblo a little bit, and we did talk quite extensively about weed management. And the intent is that even though what I saw in the county's application, cut and fill is not what they want to do. They want to leave the natural vegetation in place. And then, of course, when there's construction, there's going to be a little bit of damage, but that's easily enough remediated. But if they do a cut and fill, then you got now 2 spots that are bare dirt that you're going to have to reestablish native vegetation on. And as that happens, then that causes delays, and of course, there's additional cost to have to do that. So the intent is leave the natural vegetation there, try not to disturb it. That way you don't have to do any chemical weed control. When we were down there, the only other weed that I saw that was non-native was kosher weed, but kosher weed's everywhere, you know. And we discussed, you know, okay, how do you manage this here? And they mow it. That's what they do. Of course, they always take care of that, you know, because you can get a spark or something like that whenever mowing. And if you're out there on those plains, you don't want to start a fire with a spark. So they try to make sure that it's not dry conditions or high wind or red flag warnings or anything like that. So they take good care of that because, of course, they've got an investment there that they don't want to go up in flames. So it really did, it was a really nice facility. It was well kept, well maintained. And so with that, it was very impressive. The only time that I think that they're going to be using any chemical application is going to be around their DC inverters because, of course, these panels create a DC current which needs to be converted into AC. And with that, they try to keep that cleaned up in and around those inverters. And that's also to comply with Colorado's wildfire mitigation plan, as well as just good housekeeping. But looking at that solar field, the tour that we took, it was a well-kept operation. It looked really nice. And so whenever that happens, we would still request a copy of the best management practices and standard operating procedures for weed control management. The next term and condition is looking at material sourcing. Anything that's put out there eventually will make it to the groundwater. That ground has that geology has very high transmissivity, or that is to say, the water flows very freely through the subsurface through there. And so anything that's applied to the surface is eventually going to make it to our wells. And so one of the things we also looked at was, if you're going to be doing this construction, you're going to have some sort of dust suppression. And so we want to have approval authority over where you're getting that water. Going down to Riverside and filling up a tanker and spraying it over our aquifers is not exactly what we would like to see. So, and they have also agreed to let us, look at where they're going to source their water and get approvals from the city for that. With that as well, they're looking at building about 20 miles of roadway that's going to be 12 foot wide. And of course, they're going to have some sort of dust control with that, so the water is important. But also, with that, if you're using South Platte River aggregate, chances are it's got whatever is in the South Platte. And so we've requested that they look at some of the higher or the further high plains gravel pits. And there are several out there that have got a very high quality Class 6 or road-based stuff that they can use. I mean, it's out there, and it's not contaminated with whatever the South Platte is throwing on it. And so, and they've agreed to do that as well. The next item that we looked at is other potential contamination sources. And so while we talk about weed management and material sourcing, there are other unestablished or unknown vectors of potential contaminants. The first is going to be, even though they've done a phase 1 environmental on this site, we all know that back in the day, whenever a rancher had an unproductive piece of property, that became a dump. And anything and everything he didn't want, he threw it in there. And so even it may not have been caught by a phase 1 environmental assessment, if they were to encounter one while they're doing the construction, we would like to be notified of it as well as their plans for remediation. Another source of contamination that we looked at is that there was some talk about in their stormwater management plan about having detention ponds to collect water. And of course, we all know that, whenever you have a pond that's collecting precipitation, it's going to carry and concentrate into one small area, everything it picked up. However, state engineer's office requires that within 72 hours, all that water has to, has to exfiltrate into the ground. And by, like I say, by extension, any contaminants it may have picked up. So one of the things that we would like to look at is location data, capacities, levels, exfiltration filtration data, or any other records associated with these detention ponds. And finally, another new health concern is what we call forever chemicals. We talk about this, we call them PFAS and everything like that. There's actually 6 PFAS chemicals that are currently being regulated under the drinking water standard. And with that, it's my understanding that none of those chemicals will be actually utilized in this project. However, we would like to prohibit those above the mentioned PFAS and without notification. If you notify us, that's one thing. We can't tell them how to run their facility. But if you're going to use these PFAS, you got to notify us. And we would also require secondary containment of those PFAS chemicals. And then finally, we also look at signage. So in all the different gates, because this is going to be in different little tiny sections that are all fenced off, and they all have gates. We would like to have signage installed on there that would say something to the equivalent of drinking water watershed protection area, report all spills to 970-842-5001, in addition to any other phone numbers that they may put on there. So we would require signage. That way, if they have a subcontractor come out there to do something, it's right there. This is a drinking water protection area. And finally, one of the things that we will require will be notification, and these are probably pretty much standard. We would, upon discovery, we would like to be notified of spills, fire damage. We'd like to be notified of when they're going to be using chemical weed control. We would like to know who the applicator is, and again, as we were talking down there in Pueblo, they only use state-certified applicators. This is not some guy that they pulled off the street and said, hey, go spray. I mean, these are state-certified applicators. And then any of the SDS information with that, the chemicals that they're using. Again, if they run across a dump site discovery, we'd like to be notified. Any regulated PFAS use, we would like to be notified. And we'd also like to be notified of when they're going to do Sentry well testing, in case we want to do split samples. All right. And then finally, we're also looking at an annual status meeting, at least for the interim. That way we can discuss and see how things are going, especially during construction, as well as then operation and maintenance activities. So we're just kind of kept advised as to how things are progressing, see how things are moving along. And with that, if these are some of the terms and conditions that we're looking at, and with that, I open it up to council to have additional questions or comments.
How long has that Pueblo facility been up and running?
Right around 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2022.
2022. Yeah. So.
Beginning of 23, or late 22, early 23. So over 3 years.
Is that the only other facility you guys have? Or do you guys have, other facilities too?
Chris Haas, sorry. With NextEra Energy, Director of Development for Colorado. Yeah, we currently have 6 solar facilities operating in the state of Colorado. 2 of those are what we call distributed generation. They're less than 10 megawatts, so smaller footprints. But then 4 we have utility scale. And we have 1, 2, 3 others that will be in construction this year. One which is just immediately south of town, next to the Pawnee plant.
And they're all the same? Like, I mean, are they comparable to the Pueblo one? I mean.
Oh yes. Yeah, one of the utility scale sites outside of Deer Trail uses a different tracking system. You probably, just to the casual eye, it looks the same, just the panels, but they kind of work a little differently than our newer sites. But yeah, visually, they're...
And all maintained the same way, basically?
All maintained the same way, yes. Yeah.
That was one of the concerns I did bring up, is that while, okay, NextEra, you have South Platte Solar, I should say South Platte Solar or NextEra. Either way.
Either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, yeah, you're operating this now, okay? What happens when you sell it and you get a new owner coming in and they decide that they're going to do something different? What I was told is that NextEra will operate this for the life of the project. They're just selling the electricity.
Okay.
Yeah, full disclosure, I would never say we would never sell a project, but
Right.
our company philosophy and our mode of operation is to own and operate. We have 22 operating sites in Colorado. We develop them, we built them, we operate them. and that's between wind, solar, and battery storage. So very rare that we would sell it off, but yeah, we have no intentions to do that here, nor have we had on any other project, pretty much across our fleet.
Yeah, in addition, we can also make the permit non-transferable.
What happens when the project ends? Like, what happens to the panels that are there?
So we would we have a decommissioning plan that we had to submit as part of the county permitting process. Those panels are taken up, recycled. The steel posts are basically removed, the collection cable removed. In some cases, depending on landowner preference, we may leave some things in the ground. Obviously, for this site, I believe our plan is to have the equipment removed so nothing remains. But sometimes, like on some of our projects, if we have buried cable, we like cut it because it might be like 8 feet deep, and we leave that there. But it's pretty much landowner preference on what they want. But the steel's taken up, recycled, all the materials, the parts, taken off site, recycled, which you can pretty much do with like 98% of the material.
Thank you.
What's the attraction to Brush? I mean, what brought, how'd you find us? What brought you out here?
Sure. So the first thing we look at when we're developing is basically available transmission. We have not only the Pawnee plant that has a point of interconnect with a substation, but with the Colorado Power Pathway coming through, the new Canal Crossing substation. So we had 2 points of interconnect, which is for solar projects. You want to be pretty close to those substations. You do lose power the further away, the longer you have to transmit that power. Not so much as with wind farms, which is good because then the turbines are way out, a little more remote. But we look at the transmission system. So the fact that we have 2 substations and a new transmission system that just got built last year gives us that close capacity. And then obviously it's willing landowners. So we had landowners that did want to sign up their land for solar. There's quite a number of other developers in that area to the west of where we are, which kind of forced us into that corridor where we are now with this project. And we did get constrained, through our initial consultations with the city and the watershed district. There was definitely no build area further east of where we are, so hence the corridor that we have developed now.
And if I remember right from our tour, originally your location was outside the fire district, but you guys have opted into the rural fire district now?
That's correct, yes,
And
that
that's
was
the-
approved.
That's
I
the
believe,
brush
a month
fire
ago.
district, right? The brush fire district, or?
So Rebecca's the developer for this. She knows a ton more than I do. She's on vacation this week, but it's, Eric, do you recall?
I believe so, but we can get the correct answer if that's not the case.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just-
it
I
is
think
the
it
brush
is.
rule
Yeah,
because
okay.
Chief Urick did reach out to me at one point in time looking for some GIS data showing the inclusion of these properties into the brush rule.
Okay. That just helps them financially, property taxes, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that was a comment that came up at our permit hearing as well. Just, what district are you going to get into, because there was nothing out there, so follow that recommendation to do that.
Dale, one more quick question. Sounds like you and city staff have worked on this like a lot. And I'm just curious, looking at the permit conditions, whether you're satisfied with what NextEra is agreeing to do.
So far, yes. I've been pleased with the fact that they've listened to our concerns about, this is our watershed, this is our only water, and that anything that happens to it that you guys cause, that's a black eye on that company. And that's not how they operate. They made that clear. And so that's why we are very intense in these terms and conditions. And they've agreed that, yes, the water that we're going to use they're going to use is going to be of drinking water quality, as well as the material for their road-based construction is not going to be something that we pulled out of the anaerobic sludge of the South Platte, or anything like that. And so they've been very cooperative with a lot of these discussions and these terms and conditions. However, keeping in mind, whenever you put together a regulatory permit, that I will have that draft hopefully to Monty soon, as well as Nextera. They have a right to call me. And if there's something there that's incorrect, then we need to get it settled sooner than later. And once everybody's good with the terms and the conditions of the permit, then we can sign off on it.
Thank you.
But going down to Pueblo did a lot in my head, so it really relieved a lot of skepticism. So.
Very good.
Yeah, I guess just to add, for what it's worth, we do look at ourselves as neighbors in the community. That's why we wanted to be transparent and open up, a site visit to see it, smell it, breathe it, hear it, and see the site, because this will be in your community. And yeah, we definitely, like I said, we own and operate, so we're part of the community too. So definitely appreciate working with Dale and the team to really get through this, and a lot of hard work, and appreciate that effort, and certainly want to commit to having a good project that benefits the community, but also protects the qualities and characteristics of the watershed.
Is there any full-time staff, or how does that work?
Yeah, there'll be full-time staff. I'm not sure how many we're gonna have 2 sites down there, so there might be 8 to 12 people staffed at an operation and maintenance building. That will be outside the watershed district boundary, so we won't have like a facility in there, but yeah, there'll be, we try to hire locally for construction and for operations. So yeah, those will be basically like solar technicians that maintain, monitor the site, and then like an operations manager, so he or she will kind of run that team of technicians.
Very good.
And I hope we just commissioned a wind farm last month, or earlier this month, it's still June, south of Stratton, Colorado. And the site manager for that site was a wind tech that grew up in Flagler, 20 miles away, worked on one of our sites, and now he's managing a site, 500 megawatt wind farm. So we have, I think, of our 18 staff, or 18 technicians out there, we have, I believe it's somewhere 8 or 9 local residents, kids that are in the industry. So hoping to, do the same thing here, hire locally.
So the next steps are, if the council is comfortable with this overview of the direction we're going with the permit, and as soon as Dell writes up the final permit, that'll be executed, just understanding that HRS still is doing their review, that's coming soon, and then there could be few small tweaks to it, but nothing that should change the direction that we're going.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
So with that, I would look for a motion on the South Platte solar permit conditions.
Are we just approving them?
Approving the conditions.
You
Or-
can, so the conditions might change slightly, but just approving for me to move forward with the permitting
Okay.
would be enough.
I move that we move forward with the South Platte solar permit conditions. Is that adequate?
A second.
I recommend we move to authorize Monty to continue negotiations as directed.
Okay.
That's it's a little clearer. Sorry. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for us reminding us that you're there.
I move to authorize Monty to move forward with the South Platte solar permit conditions.
Negotiations.
Second.
Very good. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Horton,
Yes.
Counselor Scalise,
Yes.
Counselor Tyree,
Yes.
Counselor Skiles,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Mayor Sherman.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Okay, we have a proclamation 2026-9 in recognition of Parks and Recreation Month. Do you want to say a few words, Lance?
Yeah, I was gonna wait until the staff reports, but I'll just go ahead and do it now since we're talking
Okay.
about Parks and Rec. So July is always Parks and Rec month for the nation and everything, and so we try to submit a proclamation for that. And the City of Brush, we always try to celebrate 1 week of Parks and Rec. And that will be held actually next week. We have, we try to include a little bit of everything that we have to offer here in Brush. So on Monday, we offer free golf at our golf course. Carts aren't included with that. Tuesday, Viero has sponsored the day at our swimming pool, and so everybody gets in free to swim at our pool on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we have our pancake breakfast over at the JC building. It starts the day with a community walk at 6 o'clock in the morning at Doty Pond. And then we offer breakfast for anybody who'd like to come in from 6 o'clock to 9:30 over at the JC building. We will be offering museum tours also that morning. And then later on that evening at 6 o'clock over at Pettis Park, we will host a cornhole tournament at Pettis Park over there by the golf course. Thursday is a little bit different than we've done in the past. We're going to make that kind of our main event day. The school district is actually going to provide lunch for everybody who attends from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They'll provide lunch. We will also have just different activities between basketball competitions, volleyball competition, racing. And then at the very end of the day at 5:30, we will start our mud volleyball tournament. That's always been kind of the big hit of the Parks and Rec Week. Friday, we have a kickball tournament over there at the softball fields, and we will offer people root beer floats afterwards, and then we end the week with a disc golf tournament at Watrous Park. And we will also, it's not on this, but the Colby Waylert golf tournament will be held at Pettis Park, and he's donating all the money this year to youth sports in Brush. So we will have a full week next week. So pretty excited. It should be a pretty fun week. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Hopefully it just stays nice and hot. And we get hail and stuff like we had last week. So looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we've got the proclamation. Councilor Quinlan will read.
Proclamation number 2026-9, designation of July as Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas parks, trails, open spaces, recreational facilities, and community programs are essential to the health, wellness, and quality of life of residents of the City of Brush. And whereas parks and recreation opportunities provide spaces for physical activity, social connection, youth development, environmental stewardship, and lifelong learning. And whereas the City of Brush is committed to maintaining and enhancing parks, recreational amenities, and community spaces that contribute to a vibrant, welcoming, and resilient community. And whereas parks and recreation services strengthen neighborhoods, foster community pride, support local economic vitality, and improve the overall well-being of residents and visitors alike. And whereas the dedicated efforts of parks and recreation professionals, city staff, volunteers, community organizations, and residents help ensure that Brush's parks and recreational opportunities remain safe, accessible, and enjoyable for all. And whereas the month of July is recognized nationally as Park and Recreation Month, an initiative of the National Recreation and Park Association that celebrates the vital role parks and recreation play in building healthy, connected communities. And whereas the City of Brush recognizes the importance of preserving and enhancing recreational opportunities for current and future generations, now therefore be it resolved that the Brush City Council formally declares July as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Brush, Colorado, and encourages all residents to visit our parks, participate in recreational activities, support community programs, and recognize the valuable contributions of parks and recreation professionals and volunteers who help make Brush a great place to live, work, and play. Given under the hand of the Mayor and seal of the City of Brush this 30th day of June 2026.
Thank you. All right, with that, I would look for a motion to approve this proclamation.
I'd like to make a motion to approve proclamation number 2026-9 in recognition of Parks and Recreation Month.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilor Horton?
Yes.
Councilor Scalise?
Yes.
Councilor Tyree?
Yes.
Councilor Quinlan?
Yes.
Councilor Stiles?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Finance.
Move we approve disbursements and payroll for June 9th, 2026 through June 22nd, 2026 totaling $714,234.85.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Stiles?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Horton?
Yes.
Mayor Sherman?
Yes. If that motion passes, we'll move on to staff reports. Tyler Purvis, Assistant Administrator.
One thing I'll just mention briefly, going back to what we already approved for the Energy Conservation Code. And I mentioned we would normally touch it with a clerk here, not an apple. The argument for that, just as a reminder for, obviously a lot of people are in support of the general concept, which is understood, it just comes at a certain cost and requirements and those kinds of burdens. But the idea is energy conservation, so just thinking overall tying that to your energy bill. You pay every month to keep your air cool in your house or warm during the winter, and keeping all that tighter in there for future home construction is the general idea. So the tighter it is, the less air is getting in or out, so therefore your furnace or AC is turning on less, therefore it's pulling less gas or electricity from the grid, and then all the impacts thereafter. The recoup on those costs is one of those questionable things that, yes, you save every month, which is good, but the potential additional cost to do so, that money may come back in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to actually recoup those costs. So that's one of the arguments. But I didn't say anything about that. I should have earlier on when I made that reference as to typically we probably wouldn't pursue this as a community. But those are some talking points in case it ever comes up in conversation as to why is the state requiring this. And so with our bigger energy demands that we're having and now all the clean air requirements that have come into play in Colorado, the state has really elevated those regulations, and so therefore everything's having to follow suit accordingly. This is just one of the byproducts of that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Steiner.
Evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Just a few things just on the police department front. First, we've been putting together a promotional process for our patrol sergeant. Testing process is concluded. Now it's just on me to select somebody, so I should have a new patrol sergeant probably identified by the end of this week, with them probably taking part and taking the role mid-July, beginning of August. So I'm excited about that. We are holding testing for CSOs tomorrow to get that position filled after the departure of the last person we had in that position. On a call volume front, we've been seeing a spike in mental health related issues. We've had a few different people in town that had mental health related struggles, and led to some criminal aspects of things, so we've had to deal with that quite a bit. Couldn't tell you why it's like that right now, but it just seems like it's popped up over the last couple months. And then lastly, 4th of July and the rodeo is coming on, so it's a lot of us, it's all hands on deck for us, so pretty much every single person for the police department, and Fort Morgan's going to assist with it as well, because shorter staff, but the show's going on, so lots of people coming in, so we're doing everything we can to make sure that everything stays safe, and prepping to see how the parade's going to go this year with a limitation on waters. Hopefully that's not going to be a big issue, but that's kind of the world for the police department right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lance Schwinn, did you have anything else?
Just two more things.
Okay.
One, we are going to be having our pickleball courts built. We're hoping for June or July. It looks like first week of August. However, if they can get it slotted in July, they're going to still try to do that. So first week of August is when we're looking for them to make the change over there at the Sunset basketball courts and turn those into pickleball. Also, last night we held our second kind of construction meeting at the swimming pool. We had a pretty good turnout. We had about 12 or 13 people that had showed up to this one. We had really good discussion, and I think probably within the next month or so, we will have a committee put together, and we'd like to maybe sit down and talk to council at a work session or something like that about the possibilities of the swimming pool and all that sort of thing. But it was actually a really good meeting. And then lastly, we did form we are in the process of forming a Veterans Memorial group to put a Veterans Memorial within the trillium trees that we originally had at Prairie Trails Park, until we kind of had to move it because of the construction that was going on. So there's going to be about 7 people on that committee, and hopefully we'll get a good plan to put a new, nice Veterans Memorial over there at Prairie Trails Park as that construction continues. So that's where we're at. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. We're reaching towards the end of our storm cleanup. We had a pretty significant storm event last Wednesday where we had some hail that stripped a lot of leaf litter into the streets, plugged up a bunch of catch basins. Then we took anywhere between 1.9 and 2.3 inches of rain in about 45 minutes. And of course, that overwhelmed a lot of the catch basins and such. And so we appreciate the public's understanding that we're only a crew of 7 and we can't be everywhere all at once, but we try to get it down as much as possible. I know that June's been working some serious hours to try to get all that leaf litter picked up off the streets. When I came in that next morning, the streets were all green, everybody's roof was all green. I never saw so many camouflage cars in my life. So we're getting close to hopefully wrapping up the storm cleanup, and I appreciate everybody's patience with that. The next item we have is we've been monitoring our aquifer. I know that there's been some concerns with the drought and the lack of precipitation that we've been having, but people have been actually conserving water, and it's greatly appreciated. We compare 2026 to 2002 because that is a standard we use on this is really bad. And so far, we're holding pretty good. It's looking good. I mean, it's going through its natural annual oscillation in the levels, but it's holding, so it's looking pretty good at that. Also, as it relates to our wells and water system, we are looking at doing some grid maintenance probably next week out there at the well field. When we went to, before when every well had its own meter, then that was Morgan County REA's grid. But now, once we went to a master meter, it became the City of Brush's grid. And so with that, it also needs maintenance. Some of those poles and transformers have been around since the 50s, and they're starting to talk. So we need to get those replaced and fixed up. And then finally, on another note, we are having interest from contractors coming into the area for CDOT's I-76 Phase 4 project, which is that section where they left off just east of exit 90, all the way from the Highway 6, and you go over Beaver Creek, the BNSF Railroad, and the and the Highway 6 interchange, and then out a little bit more. So we can start to see a bit of pickup on that particular activity. So it looks like it's gone out for bids, and I'm getting a lot of calls from contractors wanting to know about where they can get, say for example, fill dirt, sand, and other construction related items. So we watch this start to look for that to start picking up, and so that'll bring a few more people into town. So okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dale. City Clerk Miranda.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
All right. Dan Krob, do you have anything for us, Dan?
Just briefly, I apologize for not being there to the new council members. I really want to meet you guys. I just had a 5 o'clock public hearing for another client tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't get to see a whole lot of you guys. I saw Tyler, and I believe I bumped past Monty at CML, but they put the lawyers in their own little island to keep you guys safe. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have, but nothing really to report tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dan. Monty.
Thank you.
Okay, kind of some short reports. Since Dan mentioned CML went great this year. You know, we had, I think it was 4 council members, 2 staff members, all good reviews from that. And usually council members talk a little bit about some of their learning experiences there at CML, but went very, very well this year. Other thing is the rodeo committee's VIP party or dinner, not party, dinner, that's coming up this, the first, Lorenda?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Not sure if there's still time to RSVP, but let Lorenda know if you plan on attending. There's always plenty of food there. Also, just a quick note that I'm working with Kim Dykes, our HR director, doing a little bit of succession planning. There's a potential of a new position for the city of Brush that I'll bring to council. Usually whenever there's something like that, I come to council if it's something significant, but because one of our priorities, city council priorities, was succession planning for a few years in a row, I thought it'd be important to let you guys know kind of one of the things that we're working on. So that's coming up soon. Also, this is the last few months of utilizing ARPA funds. They had to be obligated. We had them obligated to a few different projects. One project doesn't seem to be moving forward, so in the next week or two, we'll have to finalize where those ARPA funds are going to go. Roughly $200,000 left there. We just have to make sure they're all expended by December, I believe it is. So we're going to make some adjustments there, and we'll keep council apprised of that. Rodeo, next few days, a lot of rodeo activities around town, and the city of Brush, we really support that event quite a bit. All departments work on that to some degree, some level, and it's one of our premier events of the year. So hopefully everyone can join that or attend that. But also, if anyone feels like volunteering in any way, just let us know and we'll connect you to the right people with the rodeo. And that could be anything from helping with tickets at the gates, the VIP party, the barbecue. There's always a need for a few extra people there with the Rodeo Association. Also, downtown, there's a building that I talked to council about potentially purchasing a while back, and those discussions are moving forward. Tyler and I are taking the lead on that, and because it's a property purchase, we'll bring that back to the city council. But it's in a partnership with a local bank and a foundation, and we'll bring more details to the council as we get closer. But I would imagine that happening fairly quickly, and so we'll be moving on it quick. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. All right, Mayor, council reports. Anybody want to talk about CML?
I wrote down a whole bunch of notes on CML.
All right.
You said something about that.
I'm not going to read the whole thing because it takes like 20 minutes, but the things that I thought were really interesting were data centers, AI, and then I went to Sam Light's quasi-judicial rules of engagement again. Good class,
Really good.
and maybe worth doing again just because the rules for quasi-judicial hearings being different than administrative and legislative functions are kind of confusing and difficult to follow. But as far as the AI stuff, the class that I went to, or the session I went to, made it sound that it's inevitable, people are already using it, and you basically need to lean into it. But to also, in the municipal setting, to be very careful about making sure you have human control over pretty much everything, just using it correctly. And then my takeaway from data centers was different than I thought it was going to be, because you hear that they're just terrible all the time, and the panel that presented on data centers made it sound like a lot of the problems, water consumption, energy consumption, and noise, being the three main ones, are largely mitigated in modern data centers. And somebody from Google was there, and she was making it sound like their modern data centers, I think she said they were benign neighbors, something like that. I think that's how she put it. And they really try to partner with the municipalities and areas that they move into, and they offer a lot of benefits when they do move in. So I came away with kind of a positive take when I went in thinking they're just all bad. And then the last thing I think I took away was one of the vendors was Flock, and the lady that was manning that booth said that she was willing to come and talk whenever, if you have a community that's concerned about their product. And I just thought, you might be interested in that, because I know there has been quite a bit of heartburn about Flock. And I have her contact information if you want it. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else?
I went to the quasi judicial
Yes.
meeting as well, and it helped me understand it. I cannot repeat it with any accuracy, but again, having heard it before, again, it just refreshes your memory about what we can do, even as council members, so that we don't negatively try to influence or a decision. And so it was a good reminder on that. The other one I went to was on, the title was Who's Influencing Your Residents? And they talked about the use of Instagram and TikTok. And they said that was, and I thought about that even for Flock. I said, potentially that's a possibility to reach, say, even the younger generation. We can post, weekly, the recreation week and explain Flock. But again, the biggest thing, the takeaway there too, well, they kind of wanted, I think, they were outsourcing their services. But I think anybody could do it though, and they just said, make sure you know what you're talking about though. You can't just go into it with half an effort, and because anything you put out there has to be a good product. But I thought it was interesting and potentially a possibility of using that. And that was like the Flock cameras again. Like I said, it came up discourse about the Flock cameras. How are the cameras used? We could interview the police chief and about why we have them and how we use it. Just giving a better explanation of why do we have them in brush? What are we trying to achieve? And which might clear up some people will be dead set against them no matter what. But on our end, transparency, trying to open up conversation for that. So it was interesting. Those were the two biggest ones I went to.
It's a really good idea.
Mayor, I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to just remind the council, first of all, thank you guys for everyone who attended CML, and especially that quasi-judicial, because it is confusing and it is one of those things that is really difficult to follow. But if you guys ever have questions or ever need, should I do this, should I not do this, please don't hesitate to call. I think you all have my cell phone. To the extent you don't, feel free to get it from Loranda or Monty or anyone, and call me anytime, because that's not always, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 that these things come up. And I'd much rather help you through it than have to do damage control down the road.
Good one.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else?
I enjoyed it very much, especially the keynote speakers. They were very interesting. So
I was sad I had to miss it, and this was probably the first one I missed in, 8 years at least. So, yeah. So, next year, I'll be back. Yeah. All right. Does anybody have anything else? If not, I would look for a motion to adjourn so we can move into our work session.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Go into our work session. Thank you, guys.
So much. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you guys for showing up. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Talk to you soon.